History on the go. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to my channel. I want to talk about identity today because I think for some people identity is quite rigid. They're quite convicted about who they are. They know exactly who they are. But for some people, it's not so easy to sort of stand on something and say, this is my identity. When you grow up in a country that you know that your parents came to that country, I think identity becomes a little bit more confusing. It becomes a little bit more harder to sort of say, yes, I'm this, or yes, I'm that. And for me personally, it's a bit like that because as I was saying in my video about DNA, I mentioned that I mentioned that I had 59% Nigerian, but then I also said, well, that's my African DNA, and I've got the rest of the DNA is African also. I only had 1% European or Welsh. But for me, I still said that, well, that's my African DNA and I'm proud of it, or I'm pleased with it. I said that I wasn't culturally African, and some people will seem not upset, but they seem that, why am I saying that? The culture that my parents displayed in my home and the culture that I see in my country, or in the country that my parents come from, that culture, it actually derives from Africa and Europe and Asia. It's kind of a combination of the three. And when I say Africa, it could be specifically from the different tribes that was living in St. Vincent. So there's different aspects of the culture that does kind of remain in the country. So identity for me is that it's more than just my DNA, but it's also, as I said, the culture that I've developed from my parents living here in England and from the surroundings of going to an English school, leaving school and being in a college, an English college, and all those different experiences that you have. It plays on you, who you are as a person. It makes you as a person. So there's not like a straight, oh, you're black and you're Caribbean and that's it. That's rigid. You're English, you're white, and that's it. No, the culture that we have in a multicultural society, it rubs off on everybody. And so when some people may ask, can you actually have a black Englishman? Most black people that I know would say, no, you can't have a black Englishman. And I'm not sure about any white English, that what they would think about that. But I have been on certain YouTube channel where there's a guy that talks about these things, and there's people that make comments on there saying that English person's always going to be a white person. But what if I said, can a black person be a Londoner? Or can a Greek Cypriot person be a Londoner? Or a Asian, Indian or Pakistani or a Chinese person, can they be a Londoner? Most people will say, yes, of course they could be a Londoner. You got East Londoners. There's a strong Asian community in East London, an African community. Why are they Londoners? Because they live in London, because they lived in London for a little while and they're just part of that London culture. So why is it a person that's living in England, you're born in England or you're living in England, why can't you be an Englishman? What makes an Englishman? What is an Englishman? According to the word, it comes from the Anglo-Saxon word Angles, and it meant land of the Angles, and these Angles came from a part of Germany, and they came to this country, and they named the country after what they named the region Angolan. And so not everybody that was in Angolan at the time was from the Angle tribe, but over time identity, all of them became English. And so identity is just a label. It's is given at a certain time by a certain king or a certain period, and then from that period, yes, everyone's English, but it's not straightforward. It's not like straight lines. It's not. It's grey. A lot of the areas is grey because how long did it take for everybody to recognise that they were English? It's all about rulers. It's all about who makes labels. Being English doesn't mean to say you're white. That's just like being a Londoner. Doesn't mean to say you have to be a white to be a Londoner. Most people know that London is made up of many different types of people, and a lot of them would consider themselves as Londoners. They wouldn't say I'm a Brummie, which is from Birmingham. They wouldn't say I'm from Manchester or I'm a Mancunian or Liverpudlian. I said, no, I'm a Londoner, mate. I'm a Londoner. My name's Leonard. Alright, mate. Now, Nigerian. Am I Nigerian? I'm 59%. Does that make me Nigerian? No, it doesn't make me Nigerian. I don't think Nigerians really would accept me. They would say, yes, welcome to the brotherhood. But really deep down, my culture that I have it's been watered down. It's not really Nigerian. Another thing is that identity depends on where you are and who's actually saying it. So when I go abroad as a black guy, British, I go abroad to like Spain or North Africa. When I've been there, the tour guide would call the English over. When you're on holiday, the tour guide may have to give you a pep talk or give you a talk about different tours or different things to do with the holiday. And you may be in a hotel and they might make an announcement for you, or they may call you, or they may leave you a letter. You're just seen as an English group. You're part of the English group. Everyone in that group is English. Why? You speak English. You come from England. There's not such thing as black British abroad. Oh, you're the black British guy. Are you part of the English party? No, you're the English party. You're just this one group. And what tends to happen when you're in those situations, you find that English people, white English, remember English could be black or white in my opinion. An English person, a white English person would say to you, "Oh mate, what part of London you from?" I'm doing London, a white English guy from London, or a Cockney. He's speaking Cockney. "What mate? What part of London are you from?" "Yeah, well I'm from Streatham." And we talking, and we together like black and white. We abroad, but it doesn't. It's different because now we're English. We've got a bond. We've got a bond that's different than when we're in England itself, because now we are the minority. We could be in a hotel where there's probably a higher percentage of Germans or higher percentage of Italians or Spanish, and now we're the minority. When I went on a cruise, met so much English people on that cruise, and it was like when you're talking to English people, English white people, it's different when you're abroad, because you're English, you're both English. The ship's filled with people from all over the world, Americans, Italians, people from all over Europe. But now when you're in a ship with English people, white English, you're just English. And so identity it's about where you are, and it's about who's talking about you. When I'm in the Caribbean on holiday, so I go to St. Vincent, where my parents is from. The guys there, they asked me one time, some guy that was from the capital. I was down in the capital with my camera. He said to me, "Are you a Yankee or are you English?" I mean, he's calling me a Yankee or English, and that's how they see it. That's how they identify. That's how they identify with you. And you could be born in that country. You could be just left a couple of years ago. When you come back on holiday, are you a Yankee or are you English? And so identity is thing. Now, for some people, that may think to me and say, "Well, are you trying to be English? Are you trying to claim that you're English?" Well, to be honest, I don't care. I don't care what I'm trying to claim or not trying to claim, because I'm not trying to claim nothing. I don't care. First of all, I'm a human being. Secondly, if somebody wants to call me English, they can call me English, because I'm born in England. I've been here many years. I've got certain traits that come from England. I was saying the other day to somebody, when I went on holiday to St. Vincent, it was probably the first or second time I went back. I was there when I was a little kid for just a short time. But when I went back there as an older person, I remember, what's that happened now? Yeah, I was in a minibus. And in the minibuses in the Caribbean, you haven't got a bell to say, okay, ring the bell and then the bus driver's going to stop. I mean, this was an official minibus for the island. There's loads of different ones, and they different minibuses in St. Vincent, and they all go to different places, and they all got official prices and so forth. They're really well organised in St. Vincent when it comes to transport. And so I'm on this minibus, and you have to really hail the driver. You have to really tell the driver where you want to get off. But because I'm a quiet-natured person, and I think part of the culture of England is being people are quite reserved. And I think when you live in a country for many years, or you're born in the country, obviously the different aspect of that culture, some can seep into the way you are as a person. So when I'm on this minibus, I knew where I needed to get off, and I said to the driver, can you stop here? But I didn't say it loud enough. I didn't say it with the kind of culture that the people have. You know, they would say, driver, you know, sort of like really, they're really outspoken. And, you know, like in Jamaica, it's like they say, one-stop driver. Or, I mean, there may be a stereotype, but one-stop driver me want to get off here, you know. They one-stop driver, I want to get off here, driver. They really make a point of it. But I didn't have that when I was in St. Vincent, so I literally just, the minibus went straight past. So what I'm saying here is culture is important, and your culture is not always to do with your DNA. It's just how you've been brought up, where you've been brought up, and that's really the main thing. So identify with what you've become, you know, whatever you become. I can go to Africa and fit into Africa because I suppose that's where my DNA comes into place, because there are certain things about rhythm, music, beats that really just natural to me. I feel those natural rhythms, I feel those drum beats. I used to be a drummer myself, a percussionist. So I know Africa's got a lot of rhythm, a lot of drumming and culture like that, which is natural to me. So yes, and one thing I discovered while doing this video, when I say discovered, it's something that I come to a realization, is that I definitely embrace all the different parts of me, and I've always been like that when I think about it. So even though I talk about the English, I talk about the British, these are aspects of my culture that is just there. But then I know, even while growing up in Britain, I grew up in sort of like a subculture. So it was more like a black British culture. The music that I listened to, the places that I went to, that kind of kept me in that sort of culture, but I was still within Britain. But my British culture is more overall in terms of my college, I went to college, obviously schooling, and different aspects of just living in England gives you that, you become part of that, put it that way. Unless you want to isolate yourself totally and not take it on, it does naturally become part of you. So also I want to say that culture is one thing, DNA is one thing, but we need to realize that as human beings, those things can be used to separate us. So we need to realize that culture is one thing, but there is more than that. There is part of us, I believe, the inner being, which is more to do with like our connection with the universe, our connection with the earth, and that's what we should really be focusing on more than all these different cultural things, which is good. We can learn from each other, but we should always be looking to the higher purposes. Thank you. History on the go.